Hey everybody, so we're gonna go ahead and fire up the big old pressure cooker because I've got some grains and I want to pressure cook them all at the same time, and there's no better way to do it than using a big old 23 quart pressure cooker. So a lot of you guys have told me periodically that using a pressure cooker of this size can be a little bit intimidating, and it should be. It is a serious piece of equipment and should be taken seriously. So, what we're going to do first and foremost is we're going to load up the pressure cooker, which, let me show you what's inside here. I've got my trivet, and I have affixed to it some bolts so that it raises it up off the bottom of the pan. What this does is allows me to keep the things that I'm cooking out of the water. Now, the question of how much water to use is an important question to understand. I plan to cook these bags at 15 psi for, I think, 2 hours. I think that should be good enough. In order to do that, we have to keep in mind that you can lose up to 1 liter of water an hour from your pressure cooker. That's up to. Maybe even a little bit more. Not 100% sure. So, to be on the safe side, I'm putting 4 liters of water into the pressure cooker before I load my bags into it. So, we got the water going. I'm going to go ahead and turn the heat on all the way up to high because it's going to take a while. This thing is made from some pretty hardy steel, and it takes a long time for it to actually heat up. So if you plan on pressure cooking anything, plan on not having a lot of free time until the process is both started and moving through, and subsequently we have to wait for the pressure to release as well. So while we're doing that, I'm going to point out a couple of things while this starts to warm up. Number one is the pressure cooker comes with this weight. This weight is set for the 15 pounds that we're looking for. Now it's going to rest. Let me see if I can prop you guys up a little bit and we can talk. There we go. So this weight is going to rest on top of the lid. Let me see, we've got this little steam hole here. This is how it determines how much pressure is inside. Now, take a look at what else is included. It's got a pressure gauge on the top. It's got this valve here, and it also has a couple of emergency valves. There's one on the front there, and there's one on the back here. Okay? So, what these are is release valves for when the pressure's inside. You can actually influence them to release the steam and pressure more quickly. Typically, you don't want to do that, but the options are there. Now, what's going to happen is once this thing gets up to the temperature that we want, boiling, essentially, we're going to put the lid on and seal it shut. We're going to keep an eye on this release valve, and when a steady plume of steam is coming out of the top of it, we are going to put the rocker weight on the release valve, and then we're going to start dialing down our temperature on the oven stove to get this rocker weight into kind of the preferred position. And I'm going to go over that when we get a little bit closer. But for now, hang tight while I get this thing loaded up. So, as you guys can see, I've got my pressure cooker loaded up. We've got 5 bags of grain in here. There are 3 on the bottom, making a triangle, and then these 2 resting right on the top. When I roll my grain bags, I always make sure to put the filter patch out. If you roll the filter patch to the inside, the heat and expansion of the bag itself will actually fuse this patch to the plastic that it touches. So you definitely want to make sure that the filter patch is outside when you load up the pressure cooker. And what I'm waiting for now is the telltale signs that The water inside is beginning to boil. Once I hear that, then I will affix the lid and we will be in business. Okay, so water is boiling, and as you guys can see, I don't know if you can see that there. I better try and get there you go. You see that steam coming up out of there? It's pretty steady. Not completely steady, but it's getting steadier by the second though. And that's what we're looking for. Now notice how there's no pressure registering, right? And it's because all of the pressure has yet to be built, okay? So that is, I believe, a reasonably steady stream of steam coming out of that pressure valve. So, or that valve. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take our rocker, right? And we're gonna install it, okay? This is gonna take some time. It's gonna continue to build up in there. This is acting as a counter pressure to that steam, so it's actually going back down inside of the pressure cooker where it will collect, right, to create the pressured environment inside of there. And here soon, this gauge will begin to creep its way up. And of course, real quick, there's just a couple other things I want to point out. Number one, see how this little guy here is popped up, okay? I know this is prolonging everything, but watch. See, you press down, and we're actually losing steam from inside of there. Now, back here in the back, there's another gauge. This comes up when the lid is will only come up when the lid is correctly latched into place. This is also a release valve for the steam that's built up inside of there. So one of the biggest drawbacks to using a larger pressure cooker is that it takes a really long time to actually get things going. But I don't know if you guys can hear this. I'm going to flip the camera around in just a second. I think we're just about there. So as you can see, the rocker is rocking and the gauge is up. Now that is a violent rocker. So what we want to do now is we want to use our temperature control back here to start reducing the violence of that rocket. Okay, we want this thing to just barely be moving the whole time. So I'm going to play with this a little bit. I'm going to get it into the ideal spot and show you guys what that looks like. One of the things that you want to watch out for, though, is you want to make sure that your pressure gauge does not dip below the 15 psi at any point during your pressure cooking process. If it does, you have to start your timer over again. Let's check up on this real quick. As you guys can see, the rocker is still rocking pretty good. It's not quite as, rough as it was before, but it's still just a little bit too much for what I would prefer and for what everything that I have learned is recommended. Now I want to show you something. This was on high before, and it's all the way down to just over medium, and we're still producing this level at the correct PSI. So what does that mean? Well, it means that we need to adjust the temperature down just a little bit more. Now, I've been doing it fraction by fraction, just a tiny notion at a time, trying to get it to that sweet spot. The cool thing about this is pressure creates its own heat. It just needs a consistent exposure to something to maintain it. So I'm going to reach over and give that just a little nudge again. And we're going to hang out and just keep watching this thing as it goes. And once I get to that sweet spot, I'll show you guys. I think I've got it. I've seen other people have their rockers moving even less than this one, but I think this is about as comfortable as I'm going to get without worrying that that needle is going to dip below the right pressure. So we're just going to let that thing rock out, and the timer starts now. We'll be back when it's done. Okay, so time's up, and all we're gonna do is reach over here and we're gonna turn the burner off. That's it. We're gonna squeeze out the last little bit of temperature, heat from the stove as it cools down. But we're gonna see this rocker, and very, very quickly, as the stove loses its temperature, it is going to begin to settle down, because the pressure inside is no longer being maintained by that consistently boiling water. So even now, 30 seconds, we can hear the rocker start to slow down. And if you guys just sat with me for, I don't know, another few minutes, I'm telling you, this thing is gonna come to a complete stop relatively quickly. Now, one way that you can do that is you can slide the pressure cooker over off of the burner. Now, if you have a glass top stove though, I recommend picking it up and then setting it back down again. You don't want to damage the glass top. But I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to leave this alone. I'm going to let it lose the pressure naturally. I'm going to come back and check on it every so often. And when the pressure gauge is completely down to 0, when it's all the way back down, then I'm going to take the rocker off. I'm gonna press on all of the release valves, and if there's no pressure inside the cooker, we're gonna open it up and take our grains out. I'll bring you guys along with me for the grand reveal. Just a few more tips as we navigate our way around this pressure cooker. Just because the gauge reads 0 does not mean that there's not still pressure inside. What you're gonna wanna do is look at your relief valves here. This one is still very much extended, and so is the one in the back. So definitely still pressure inside of here. We're gonna leave this until this and that drop all the way down, and then we should be good to go. And we've arrived. So you'll notice that both of the pressure valves are down. We got no pressure there, and boom, nothing coming out of here. So we can just crack this bad boy open just like that, and boom, get at the goods inside. Now, I can't do this holding you guys up, but what I can do is put you down, and we can get the lid off of this bad boy. And I mean, obviously, I'm not going to be reaching in there and grabbing these things anytime soon. They're definitely super hot, but I did want to show you guys something. As soon as I pulled that lid off of there, these bags, which were mildly inflated, you can see here, it's got some air trapped in there. As these cool off a little bit, they will vacuum seal themselves closed so that we can take them into the garage and get them, oh, camera steamed up. So we can take these into the garage and get them sealed properly so that we can get them ready for inoculation and everything else. But obviously I'm gonna wait until this cools down before I reach in there and start pulling these bags out. And there you have it, the process of pressure cooking some grains using a big old 23 quart pressure cooker. It's really nothing to be afraid of, just as long as you're keeping an eye on it and, you know, listening to that rocker make all that noise while you're getting everything cooked up in there. So don't be put off by the work. Let the work reward you and just get it done. Yeah, that's all I got for you guys. I'm really glad you were here through all of this. Sorry for the long video, but you've told me before, you'll be here till the end. So, with that I say, thanks for hanging out.